Hey everybody! Today we're going to be talking about the streak plate isolation technique that we're going to be using in our class. And when it comes to the streak plate technique, this is a technique that is used to basically isolate out specific types of bacteria, generally from a mixed culture. So if we're looking at something like this image right here, where we have a couple different colors of colonies, we got some red ones, some kind of whitish ones, and we got some yellow ones. And let's say that I'm interested in the little yellow colonies that we have. What I could do again is that I would first start out with my mixed culture and I would end up getting this kind of streak plate. I would then pluck out just a single of those little yellow colonies and I would then do the procedure again. And then if I end up getting, again, mixed colors, I would then pluck out just the yellow one and I would continue to do this procedure. Generally 6+ times is the standard way to create these pure colonies. But all around, what would end up happening is that at the end, I should only have those little yellow colonies. And once I've made those yellow colonies, and only those yellow colonies, I would now have a pure culture or an isolated culture. And that's basically the main goal of the streak plate technique, is to make these pure or isolated cultures, basically just indicating that it is growth of a single bacterium. So it is only that one bacterium that I have on my plate. So that's kind of the intro again, the main goal, make pure cultures and make isolated cultures. That's the main thing that we're trying to do with our streak plate technique. In terms of the materials that you're going to need in order to perform a streak plate, you're going to need your Bunsen burner and your striker in order to light it. You will need your loop in order to do the inoculation. You're going to need, again, some kind of sample that you're trying to get your isolate out of. You're going to need whatever plate it is that you're doing your streak plate on. And then you also want a marker in order to mark the quadrants. Now, when it comes to the streak plate, there are many different versions of the streak plate technique that you can do. The one that I like to do is what we call a T streak plate. It's a 3-quadrant streak. You can do 4s and 5s. It just kind of depends on exactly what you want to do. There's even zigzag methods. But since I like the T one, that's the one that I'm going to show you in this video. So I like it because it's very straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and just label my plate real fast, and I'm going to put a T on it to start with. So I'm just going to basically make a T, and now I have the 3 quadrants that I need. So let me just real fast label it here, put my initials on there, put the date on there. Let's see, this is a nutrient agar plate. We're going to go at 37 degrees Celsius. And let's just say that this is E. coli. So here's my fully labeled plate ready to go with all the different items on there that I should have for my plate. Now, in terms of the procedure does have quite a few steps to it, and it is important that every step is done kind of in the right order. If not, what you're going to end up with is similar growth all the way throughout your plate, rather than a lot of growth in the first quadrant, little growth in the second one, and then single colonies in the last quadrant. But let's go ahead and get into the procedure and kind of talk about the way that that works. So let's start out getting our Bunsen burner going, and then let's do our basic aseptic technique. So we're going to start out by flaming our loop. Alright, I'm going to give it again kind of that 10 to 15 seconds that we need in order to allow for my loop to cool down a little bit, and then we're going to get our sample. Let's see, a couple more seconds there. Alright, so uncap the tube, flame the mouth of the tube, dip your loop inside of the sample, flame the mouth of the tube, and recap it. And now what I'm going to do again is I want to inoculate this portion first. This is my first quadrant that I want to inoculate. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm just going to inoculate just that quadrant. Lots and lots of streaks across it. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flame the loop again. And this is one of those critical steps. If I do not flame the loop and I just kind of go through all 3 other quadrants, I will get the same kind of growth all the way throughout. So what I'm doing now is I'm basically killing off any excess microbes that I have on the loop, so that when I go into my first quadrant, I can transfer just a little bit down into the second. So giving this again a little bit of time to cool down, and now I'm going to transfer from my first quadrant down into my second quadrant. So I'm going to open up the lid again. I'm just going to gently tap the side of the auger to make sure that it is cool and that I don't kill my bacteria. And then I'm just going to twist it a little bit here so I can do it better. Just going to take from the first quadrant and gently drag it down. I'll show a little bit closer here. First quadrant, gently drag it down into the second quadrant 3 or 4 times, and then I'm just going to finish out the quadrant. Lots and lots of streaks there. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flame my loop again. And again, the whole thing here is that I want to kill off any excess bacteria that I might have on the loop, so that now when I go from the second to the third quadrant, I'm going to have even less bacteria. And the overall goal then is again going to be that in my first quadrant I get a lot of growth, second quadrant I get little growth, and I should have my single colonies again in that third quadrant. So let me see here. All right, so again, I'm just going to go ahead, tap it in order to cool it down a little bit. Whoops, I'm out of the camera angle there. So tap it to cool it down a little bit. And then from my second to my third, just going to drag it in 3 to 4 times. Finish out my streaks. And then I'm going to flame to clean. All right, but really, that should be what I need to cover on how we do a streak plate inoculation technique.